lads, let's start
by wishing everybody a happy Saturday morning.
A happy Saturday morning. A happy New Year. Wait, when's the last time we recorded?
Definitely New Year.
The season
1,000,000%. The season was still going. Happy New Year regardless. Yeah.
And let's start by looking back. I want to look back at our kind of pre-season predictions. Now, we all made a pre-season fantasy MVP, a pre-season bold player prediction, and a pre-season bold team prediction. Lou's looking pretty smug. He's literally smirking.
Yeah, you can tell. I hate that face. I hate it.
I'm going to preempt this by saying Lewis has himself fully admitted numerous times this week that although he clearly smashed these pre-season picks out of the park, as soon as football started being played, he lost his mind.
Yeah, sort of like, it's amazing how well my predictions were before any footage to analyse of these players and these teams. You know, once that all happened, it sort of skewed my my judgment, I guess. But I had the script. I had the script at the start.
So do you want to start us off? Let's start off with your bold team prediction, seeing as you had the script for the season. What was your bold team prediction?
My bold team prediction was that the Lions would win a playoff game. And they won 2.
The craziest thing about that is that my bold team prediction was that the Rams would win a playoff game. So our bold predictions came down to the wire against each other.
They did.
Do you want to speak on the Lions, Lou, at all?
Good team. 2 playoff wins, which was, I believe, the same amount they had in their history in the playoff era. So, you know, that team's, you know, they're going to be good again next year. A lot of continuity. We'll get into that in a bit. But yeah, I mean...
Well, here's a question for you. Who's going to be better next year then? Your bold prediction team in the Lions or my bold prediction team in the LA Rams?
Very close. Not to you know, spoil the script too early, but that could be. You could be talking about an NFC Championship game there.
Yeah. Like I said, the Rams, I'm happy with that pick. There was times in the season where it looked like a terrible pick, but I mean, you know, Nakua came on really strong. I mean, he was great all year. Kind of like one of those players that seems to have revitalised the whole team, revitalised McVay, Stafford as well, Kyron Williams, of course, as well. Looking like a really promising future for the Rams, looking like they're going to be good again next year. And, you know, there's all the talk about McVay potentially retiring when all it takes is one good season again for the guy to kind of clearly be all in again. Sharps, what was your bold team prediction?
I was sick of you two with your positivity, and I went for a negative one. And I thought that the Arizona Cardinals would go 0-17.
You did indeed. You did.
Started off good. They lost to, off the top of my head, it was the Commanders and then the Giants, and then they rolled up to the Rootin' Tootin' Cowboy Arena. It might have been at the Cardinals ground. I don't know, but for this scenario, they rolled up to the Rootin' Tootin' Cowboy Arena.
It's always the Rootin' Tootin' Cowboy Arena.
The Dimsdale Dimmadome, I think you mean.
The Dimsdale
And obviously,
Dimmadome.
you two were giving it all yee-haws and all that, and then, they beat them. So it ended quite quickly. They then proceeded to be terrible again for the next 5 games. I think they were on about 1-7. And then something happened. I mean, obviously Kyler Murray came back. They just looked a lot better. And I'm actually quite positive on them next season. I don't think they're in the potentially a tough division, but yeah. So no, I would have to say, although it was 4-13 in the end, they did prove me wrong. Trey McBride looked great. Yeah. So yeah, I will say that I ate my words on that one.
It's not even like a particularly fun one, like as in that we can kind of poke fun at, because numerous times throughout the season we kind of complimented the Cardinals for just like really playing hard, and Jonathan Gannon looks like he might be a really good coach, and Kyler Murray's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So I mean, it was a nice one, Sharps, because I think a lot of people thought the arrow was pointing firmly downwards for the Cardinals, but yeah. How about those bold player predictions? I had Geno Smith to be an MVP candidate. Sharples is laughing, pumping his fist. Now, I've put here in capitals, nope. I mean, Geno Smith by no means was terrible last year. He had 3,600 yards. It was 600 less than the year before. 20 touchdowns, which was 10 less than the year before. And 5% lower completion percentage. Yeah, the wheels kind of fell off for the Seahawks and Geno. Even though Geno wasn't terrible this year, the pick of him potentially being an MVP candidate from me was terrible.
I think I might have talked you into the Geno Smith one, because I was super high on him at the start of the season. I thought he'd be up there. I think even when you said top 3 or MVP, I was surprised at that, but I thought he'd be up there.
Yeah, I mean, us people with brains thought he would be, so it's Geno's fault, I think.
Yeah.
Lou?
Not as hot a pick, but I said that Saquon Barkley would lead the league in rushing, and you know what? He didn't.
Didn't even get 1,000 yards.
Didn't even get 1,000 yards. No, it was a pretty poor season rushing yardage wise. If you look, like McCaffrey's he's way out there, but like after McCaffrey's 1,450, you've got Derrick Henry, who we all forgot about.
What is that?
1,100.
7, 8, 9, 10, 10-ish players with over 1,000 yards,
which is fine, but no one really breaking the bank in that category.
Barkley's an interesting one because the guy that's going to be a free agent and clearly got a lot of confidence. I saw an interview with him the other day. The man's beard has got a mind of its own. I don't know if you've seen his beard recently, but what's going on there? But anyway, he's clearly got a lot of confidence in himself. Thinks as well as McCaffrey, he's kind of the best running back in the league, and there's a lot of chatter about him potentially going to Houston. But at this point, I would say, what are you getting with Saquon Barkley? Because
I've heard the Chargers as well.
Chargers. But how different is Saquon Barkley next year to what Austin Eckler was this year?
Better.
Do you think?
Yes. Wow. Yes, definitely. I think Saquon Barkley still looked like he had juice. That team.
I feel like Austin Eckler ran for more yards though.
But let me put it this way: you could easily argue this for Austin Eckler. It's not a good example because they both had quarterbacks who were hurt. But I don't know. The eye test, I guess. Then the eye test for me led me to believe that Saquon Barkley can still be a good running back for a few years, whereas Austin Eckler, we joked about him looking like a tank.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of running backs on the move. I don't think Tony Pollard comes back to Dallas, to be honest with you. But Sharples, that bold player prediction.
I had Alexander Mattison, running back for the Minnesota Vikings, to be in the top 10 of running backs. And I had a quick tot-up on the ESPN website. I had him about the RB37. So, yeah, not my best one. Do you know what? Looking back at it, obviously now it looks ridiculous. I listened back to my own analysis at the time. I stand by it. Dalvin Cook left. He was the only guy in that running back room. He should have, and every time he'd filled in for Dalvin Cook previously, he'd pretty much been, Dalvin Cook volume 2. I don't know why it didn't work, but it didn't. He didn't score a single rushing touchdown all year. He might have got 1 or 2 receiving ones. He wasn't injured. I think he missed 1 game all season. He was just rubbish. I really don't know. Maybe, obviously, Kirk Cousins goes down, the leader, the blandest man in the universe. It sort of offsets the sort of feng shui of the building. That's all I can put it down to. And that's beyond my control. So
that is beyond your control. So again, player's fault, not a bad pick. Again. That Mattison one was hilarious all season. The hype over Mattison coming into the season, and for fantasy managers, I feel like you knew from week 3 that it wasn't going to happen. Yeah.
The funny thing is, as hard as I was pushing him, I didn't get him in a single one of my leagues, and who's laughing now?
There you go.
Well, the big one, our fantasy MVP picks from the start of the season. We'll leave Lewis to last. I know he's about to explode. Sharps, why don't you remind us who you thought was going to have a hell of a season?
I believe I picked Justin Fields.
Yes.
I think my logic at the time was he was probably going in round 5 or 6. He's a mobile quarterback. I still think that quarterbacks who can run are an absolute cheat code. I mean, you get 0.1 points for rushing yard and 0.04 for throwing it. So if you've got a guy who's got wheels, it can do it. But and to be fair, he was injured for a good six games this year. I'm not saying in real life he's a great quarterback, but I still think for fantasy, obviously it's going to be a bit up in the air whether the Bears draft Caleb Williams. But I think there's going to come a year where he explodes for fantasy, and I just think when you can run like that, it's always there. So didn't happen this year. The year before I picked Kyler Murray. I'm going to probably pick a mobile quarterback again next year. Hopefully this time it works.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, the Sharps. It's kind of like the Lamar Jackson pick at the start of the year where there's such potential to go completely nuclear.
Yeah.
And, that there's a genuine, I think, feeling that Chicago, they want Justin Fields back. It might be smarter for them to rack up a load of picks and build a team around him. I think the city likes him. I think that team won over a lot of people towards the end of the season. I did see a really funny interview with Jackson Smith and Jigba talking about Shane Waldron, who was his offensive coordinator with the Seahawks and has now gone to the Bears, and basically got asked, what would you say to the Bears about the guy that they're getting? And he was just silent.
Nice.
And then he was like, oh, he's a great guy. Yeah, not what you really want to hear, to be honest with you. But yeah, my fantasy MVP pick was Amon-Ra St. Brown. Pretty good pick, I'd say. I think he came through in a lot of big moments throughout the fantasy season. He finished wide receiver 3 in PPR scoring, averaging about 20 fantasy points a game, and joint second in receptions. Now, my big thing was with St. Brown was that I thought he could lead the league in receptions, and unfortunately he was joint second because, Lou, take it away.
Well, my fantasy MVP was CeeDee Lamb. And I said way back when that he was going as the wide receiver 7, 16th overall. So I believe I did preface to make this MVP pick legitimate. He really had to be a hit, had to be a top 3 guy. I talked about, if you looked at his metrics and compared them to other wide receivers from previous years, he was sort of primed for that 20-plus point per game year breakout. And now Dallas were pointing in the pass-first direction with McCarthy as the play caller. And yeah, CeeDee Lamb ended up averaging 23.7 PPR points per game and finished as the number 1 wide receiver on the season.
Well done.
Cheers.
Maybe you can, when you're editing this, put in
number three overall player on the season. Number 2 overall player on the season.
Maybe
as well.
You can put yourself in some applause from an audience.
The listeners are applauding at home.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
they can fill in the blank.
They didn't even need a cue. Yeah. Well, some great picks there. I think what we've learned from that maybe is then in terms of kind of when we're looking at something that might be realistic in terms of your fantasy MVP, something that we really need to dig into and think who could really capitalise on a situation. Listen to us when we're giving you bold predictions where we're kind of extrapolating our opinions out to something that might seem unrealistic. Probably don't listen to us, maybe. Yeah. But let's get into our end of season fantasy awards.
Lovely.
Yeah. Nice. While we're waiting for it now, how we're going to do this is we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 categories. We're all going to kind of come with some names, and we're basically just going to talk it out for 30 seconds to a minute. and then we're going to come up with a winner. I think we'll start with draft value. Now, the difference between draft value and sleeper hit is, draft value is your players that are kind of known and were drafted in most leagues, and it's kind of like putting that into context in terms of how good they were versus where they were drafted, whereas sleeper hit is more of your guys that kind of were undrafted and kind of came out of nowhere. So draft value, on my board charts, I've got Mike Evans, whose ADP was 53, wide receiver 24, and he finished wide receiver 7. Rashad White, who had an ADP of 60, running back 23, and he finished running back 4. Raheem Mostert, ADP 99, running back 35, and he finished running back 5. And Sam Laporta, who had an ADP of 113, that's a tight end 13, and he finished tight end 1. Any other players that you want to mention?
I think they're the sort of they are the sort of main drafted guys that you're talking about, really. I had Nakua in this section just because I had him going in like the 15th round. He was your last pick, essentially. But then again, I know he was virtually undrafted in most places. So
he's kind of a bit of more of a sleeper. Sharples, any other names on there?
Yeah, I mean, I had 3 down. You said White and Evans. The only one potentially debatable, I remember him being there or thereabouts as people's last pick of the draft. I had Jordan Love. I think a few people were taking him as their quarterback too, but if you want to call that a sleeper, fine with me.
Yeah. I mean, I also had, I remember in draft season, I was pretty high on picking Nico Collins with my last pick of the draft, and he obviously ended up being amazing as well. But I mean, I think we're really looking at Evans, White, Mostert, and Laporta, to be honest with you. And if I'm just going to kind of cast my vote now and let you two decide as well, looking at the numbers, looking at kind of the expectations on the season, I'm going to go Rashad White. I think the running back 4 is kind of, that is not easy to do whatsoever. And he was great as well. He was great rushing the ball. He was great in the passing game. He kind of gave you really meaningful fantasy games. It wasn't just like a guy who stacked up points. And even looking now, running back 4, Rashad White, you're like, whoa, okay, so I'm going to go Rashad White personally, Luke.
Yeah, I'm going to go for Rashad White for the reasons that you outlined. I had Rashad White on my teams in a couple of leagues, and it just really reliable week to week. Rashad White for me.
Chaps?
Yeah, same. I had him in the main league. I think I drafted him in the 10th, and this year I'm looking for him in the 2nd probably. So I think that tells you how much he's gone up in people's estimations. And like you say, he could run it in, he can catch it. He was a every down back. Yeah, great player.
Nice. Rashad White wins draft value. Onto the sleepers, a little bit different. These are more guys that were kind of like, your very last picks in your draft or undrafted players at the start of the fantasy season. I had Karen on my list, who finished running back 7, even after missing 4 games. Puka Nacua came out of kind of nowhere to finish the wide receiver 4. And Rashee Rice finished wide receiver 27, but was the wide receiver 9 from weeks 12 onwards. Lou, I know you want to chuck a few other names in the hat.
Yeah, just Jaden Reed, who started out pretty slow, but he... from weeks 10 to 18, he was the wide receiver 10, 17.4 points per game. And his quarterback, Jordan Love, Love started out pretty nice, and then he sort of dropped off. We certainly slagged him off on this podcast. Weeks 1 through 10, he was the quarterback 13. Weeks 11 through 18, that's a big chunk of the season. Jordan Love was the quarterback 2. Really good stuff. I'd say those guys I just wanted to throw out there. But a lot of good players there, a lot of good names that you just had no idea about when you were drafting.
Exactly. Sharps?
Yeah, I mean, I think it has, when you're talking about sleepers this year, it has to be the Nakua or Karen, really. Both for the Rams, but yeah, just... Neither of, I'm sure there's some people that will say, oh yeah, I drafted him in the 10th because I knew. I don't believe it for a second. They came out of nowhere, they smashed it, like you say, RB7 and wide receiver, was it 4 in the end for Nakua?
4, yeah.
4.
I mean,
Wide receiver 4 for Nakua.
The thing is as well, yeah,
1,400
I know.
receiving yards, 105 receptions, the most receiving yards ever by a rookie wide receiver.
And receptions, wasn't it?
And yeah.
It's between them two. It's hard that.
I lean Nakua just because of the durability.
And the durability and consistency. The thing, the downfall of Karen, which is actually like very impressive, is that he finishes the running back 7, and he missed 4 games for injury and didn't play in week 18. So he was the running back 7 and he didn't play in 5 games, which is ridiculous. But those 5 games maybe were the difference between you getting in your fantasy playoffs and not. So he could have burned you.
Yeah.
So for that reason, Nakua.
Nakua for me too. What about you, Sharps?
Yeah, for beating out Cooper Kupp, got to be Nakua.
Yes, Puka Nakua, sleep hit of the year. Lads, the fantasy bust. Bust of the year. Again, I'm going to throw out some names. Feel free to add to them if you want. Tony Pollard is the first name I've got here. He had an ADP of 12, which was the 5th running back off the board. He finished running back 14. Stephon Diggs, ADP of 6 overall, wide receiver 3. Finished wide receiver 9, which feels quite generous because in the final 8 weeks of the season, he scored less than 9 points 6 times.
Yeah, well, I with Diggs, weeks 10 to 18. How many is that? How many weeks is that? 9?
Yeah.
Literally the last 9 weeks. He averaged 9.8 PPR points per game.
Well,
9.8 PPR points per game.
Oh, man.
We've got to say it, Travis Kelce, an ADP of 5 overall, tight end 1. Finished tight end 3, and it's the tight end thing throws it out of whack a little bit.
It's got to be contextualised.
It's got to be contextual. So
yeah.
let's forget the tight end 1 to tight end 3. He started the 5th person off the board, and he finished nowhere near that overall in fantasy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, and he averaged 9 points in the fantasy playoffs, which is that killed you.
Any other names from you two?
You nailed them for me. I had Pollard, Diggs, Kelce.
Did you say Mahomes?
No.
No? You don't think Mahomes...
Future Super Bowl winner Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, spoilers.
That's fantastic, but what does that do for us in fantasy? Nothing.
That is true.
Rubbish.
That is true, yeah.
Okay.
Because, I mean, what? We slate people for taking early quarterbacks, and in my opinion, rightly so. But you think, if you get Mahomes, it's guaranteed. Where did he finish? Quarterback 8?
Yeah. And you did pick him QB1 11th overall.
Yeah. And also, I know he missed a few games through injuries, but even when he came back, Austin Eckler, we had plenty to say about him. He was going, ADP 3, 4? I don't know where he finished, but missed a few games at the start, but he was useless.
Yeah.
I'm also going to dangle T. Higgins out there for you.
Okay.
Drafted as the wide receiver 18. Drafted in the first 4 rounds of your fantasy drafts. Finished wide receiver 51. Not great at all. I know who my vote is, though.
Go on.
It's Stephon Diggs. Personally, I'm going Stephon Diggs for all the reasons that we just said, for absolutely killing you down the stretch in fantasy and kind of looking like an undraftable player going into next season, Blue.
Yeah, I'm going to go Stephon Diggs as well, just because with the guys I laid out there, like Kelce, he was underwhelming, but he was still fine for a tight end. Pollard wasn't great, but running back scoring was sort of a bit down this year. Diggs, that last half of the season, 9.8 points. If you look at the other wide receiver scoring, that is outrageously poor. And he killed you. He completely killed you because you had to play him because it was Stephon Diggs. So, yeah.
Sharps.
I'm surprised. I thought we were going to be arguing over Mahomes or Kelce. Personally, for me, Mahomes.
Mahomes, well, just even more fuel to the fire, which is Patrick Mahomes winning his 3rd ring. He's got called out on yet another. When he wins the ring, I'm sure he's going to say on Sunday that it was this was the straw that broke the camel's back.
In the pocket across the pond, lit a fire up his ass.
Yeah, you could say that.
They love out like that. They love manufacturing some sort of everyone hates them.
What you got to remember is iron sharpens iron.
Yes.
Fantasy MVP time. I have 3 names on my board.
Yeah, we must all.
I think there's clearly one winner. I'm going to start with the name that I don't think you two might have. I think we'll have a couple of the same names. I'm not sure whether you two will have Josh Allen, though. And Josh Allen's on mine. We're talking about over 4,000 yards, 29 touchdowns. Okay, the interceptions were higher this year, but the rushing yards were there when you needed them to be. The rushing touchdowns were there, the big plays. It was quite comfortably the quarterback one in fantasy this year. I think you just kind of had an absolute juggernaut on your team every week if you had Josh Allen. So I'm gonna say Josh Allen, even though I don't know if he'll get my vote. But Lou, do you want to add anyone to that?
CeeDee Lamb,
Okay.
Tyreek Hill,
Yeah.
the other guy that we're all thinking of.
Yeah. We'll let Sharple say the other guy, shall we?
Go ahead.
That would be Mr. Christian McCaffrey.
Yes.
So what I did, I had 3 names, each at a different position, because for me, if you've got 2 at the same position, they can't really be MVPs because, it's too it's got to be separate. So McCaffrey, Lamb, and Allen. I'm just going to throw it out there, boys. For me, you look at the biggest differentials between 1 and 2 at the positions. McCaffrey's clear by 100 points. For me, it's Stonewall McCaffrey MVP.
Yeah.
I think we would be crucified if we said anything else.
I agree.
Anyone. And do you not think this is kind of like when, obviously, you had McCaffrey's unbelievable season a few years ago, and then you had the ones that were kind of riddled with injury, and then he goes to the Niners last year, and do you think this season did live up to that kind of fantasy, that dreamland that we were thinking of what this could be?
Well, put it this way. Christian McCaffrey this year had more games where he scored over 25 points than he had games where he scored under 20. He scored over 25 points 6 times, and he only scored under 20 points 4 times. That is ridiculous. He scored over 100 points more than the next running back. We've won less game. Actually, in fact, Christian McCaffrey could have stopped playing after week 13 and he still would have been the running back 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, running backs need to up the games next year, but McCaffrey's just a beast. I think I texted you two during maybe the Packers game, and I was like, I think this guy might be the best player in the whole league.
Yeah.
Unbelievable player. Congratulations, Christian. Another prestigious award.
Nice one, Chris. Tien.
To add to, I believe, his Offensive Player of the Year.
Offensive Player of the Year as well.
Yeah, we obviously had the awards last night. We had Jackson taking the MVP home, Offensive Player of the Year, McCaffrey, Defensive Player, Myles Garrett, Coach of the Year, Stefanski, Offensive Rookie of the Year, and Defensive Rookie of the Year. It's been a sweep again. Last year it was the Jets. This time it's the Texans sweeping that with Will Anderson and CJ Stroud. Any other big awards that I'm missing there?
Cam Hayward. The Walter Payton Man of the Year.
The NFL's most prestigious award. Yeah.
Flacco got the comeback. Did you mention that?
Flacco got the comeback player of the year. He did as well. Yeah.
Over
I mean, if you
Mr. Asterisk.
if you DeMar Hamlin, it's like, what can you do?
To be fair,
what can you do?
I'm pretty sure DeMar Hamlin played 10 snaps all year.
He did, and obviously it's a miracle that he was able to come back and play. But if you're talking just the bare bones of the award, Flacco.
Yeah. We got another little bonus award here, and I don't know if you two have got a pick for it. I certainly have got a pick for it. It's the worst take of the year.
I've got one.
Worst take of the year.
Yeah.
You can vote for yourself on the podcast or someone else on the podcast. I voted for all of us in week 13 because our player picks in week 13, the results were 2 gooses, 2 misses, 1 not missing Adam Troutman on 1.6 points because he clearly had a projection of about 4. Yes. And no hits. So I'm saying worst take of the year, whatever we were... I think we're all... I think that was the week that the painting work was going on in Sharp's apartment.
Yeah.
And we were all kind of high on the fumes.
Yeah.
I don't know what we were playing at in week 13. Just even looking at some of the names: Howell, Cortland Sutton, Calvin Ridley, Troutman, Terry McLaurin. Yeah.
Ryan was on the wall.
Lou, did you say you had one for worst take?
Yeah, and it sort of relates to what you just said. My worst take of what I thought was the worst take of the year was all of Sharples' blatant loophole tight end picks where it was impossible unless they scored minus points to get a miss.
Listen, I
think it is.
I think you could argue they're the best takes because he was playing the game.
Unsportsmanlike, I would say.
Yeah, but then I knew it was going to come back because obviously once we totted up the points, I was low. But he hits and misses, swings and roundabouts, isn't it?
Okay.
Chaps, have you got any?
If you want to close the loophole next year, we can discuss that at the next board meeting. But other than that, it's just your two guys.
Any bad takes that kind of spring to your mind?
Actually, yeah. I hadn't prepped this one, but my bracket, my Super Bowl bracket, was I think I went 1 and 7 in the first, which I literally couldn't have got it more wrong.
Which I remember saying statistically is incredibly impressive.
Yeah,
but a kind of reputationally is career-ending stuff.
Yeah, I agree. Mine was also very poor. Mine was very poor. My Cowboys pick just annihilated the bracket straight away, completely.
Yeah.
And what's even more annoying about that is that I told you earlier on, lads, that I had the script. I don't know why at the start of the season when we're talking about our Super Bowl predictions, I said the Chiefs would beat the 49ers in the Super Bowl. And then
play it.
I will. I won't. I'm not gonna. I can't do that. But I said that. You can go back and listen, and then I just completely You know what? Not only did I not have the Chiefs and 49ers get into the Super Bowl, my bold prediction was the Lions would win a playoff game. In my bracket, I had them losing to the Rams. Yeah. I don't know what. Again, it's another example of just I was so smarter before I watched any of the season's play.
Agreed. And I think go on.
We need to just remember that, as you said, Al, statistically, picking 7 incorrect results is as impressive as picking 7 correct results.
It is. Exactly.
And
if the listeners are smart, then they would have done the opposite.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Well done.
I feel like that's only impressive though if you said before you did it. Everybody I pick is going to lose.
It's been known that I'm playing the Paul Merson role on this podcast, and I always do the opposite of what he says. So,
yeah.
Cheers, Merce.
I mean, so anyway, worst take goes to Lewis Brindle, 2022 Fantasy MVP, Cortland Sutton. Which will forever be the worst pick on this podcast.
Okay.
Just some quick reactions to the playoffs then, lads. Standout games, standout performances, anything that you're desperate to say.
Cowboys are rubbish. Please do me a favour, right? If the Cowboys are decent again next year, this is the listeners at home as well, I'm not just talking about you two.
Stop us.
Get in touch. Tell us to shut up. Remind us of this moment right here. Punch me in the face. Make me snap out of it, because the Cowboys are the biggest bottle jobs in sport.
Yeah.
Like, they just cannot get it done when it matters. And that's the coaching, that's the players. They just fold when it's an important game. And right, obviously that's disrespectful to the Packers.
Yeah.
Green Bay, excellent game plan by Green Bay. They came out, played really well, forced the game to be played at their pace, their way. And the Cowboys just couldn't anywhere near match that level of game management and execution at any point in the game, besides garbage time. When the scoreline looked a lot more flattering than it actually was. They got absolutely stomped by the Packers.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even finish that game, to be honest with you. Before I give Sharples a chance to revel in that, I just want to say the championship games were really weird because the teams who lost both should have won. You know, the Ravens looked in control at one point and kind of abandoned what they were about. They only rushed the ball like 6 times with the running backs. But the Lions, like, you need to kick a field goal and go up 3 scores. You can't be calling for... And I get that was what they were doing all year for the most part. However, you got to think about the situation that you're in. I think the Lions blew it big time. And I know the exciting team, everyone's kind of rooting for them. I think it's going to be really hard for them to get back there next year. I don't think they do get back to the championship game next year, personally. But Sharps, do your worst.
No. Well, before I do, I just think the Chiefs' transformation into the Patriots is pretty much complete. I feel the tide's turning. People don't really like them. It's one of them where it reminds me of the San Antonio Spurs as well, where it's like we don't really care about the regular season. We turn it on with the playoffs, and like considering how bad they looked for a Chiefs team, they've just come alive in the playoffs. I want the Niners to win. I think the Niners are a better team on paper, but I think you just can't rule out the Chiefs at this point. I mean, if they get another one, that's 3 in 5 years. 6.
I think so, yeah.
I mean,
it's impressive.
Halfway there to that Patriot one. Obviously, I don't know how long Andy Reid's sticking around, but yeah. And I mean, in terms of the Cowboys, I'd like to gloat, but I mean, you know, everyone else, all non-Cowboys fans knew it was coming. You know, I sent you the diagram. It was just a matter of plotting where you were on the circle, and you were right about there, which is just between we're going to win the Super Bowl and we've just lost in the first round. So I knew it was coming, but also
Okay.
No, that was a very strong one as well. I mean, the fact that the AFC Championship game is the fall for Patrick Mahomes in his career as a starter is absolutely crazy.
Speaking of AFC Championship game as well, can I just quickly get on a little soapbox and talk about the Bills? Because of a lot of scrutiny for Mike McCarthy, rightly so. Can I just throw it out there that Sean McDermott should really be on some sort of hot seat?
Oh, it's scalding hot, yeah.
Because okay, with Josh Allen as the quarterback, 5 playoff appearances, 1 AFC Championship game, with Josh Allen as your quarterback. That ain't good.
No.
Now, you can say this, that, and the other, we're against Mahomes. No. Your mentality should be, they're against us, and we're going to beat them. And it's just, there's something not quite right there where they can't get over the precipice. To have that quarterback and only get to 1 AFC Championship game in 5 appearances is I think noteworthy, really.
Noteworthy. The guy also needs to improve his analogies. So he needs to improve his analogies in training camp. Look it up. What a stupid thing to say. Anyway, I thought it would be fun at the end of the season, before the Super Bowl, to rank our top 10 quarterbacks in real life, like as in not fantasy, just who we think the best quarterbacks are. You know, in the playoffs, the big time quarterbacks really come out to play. You kind of, like with Mahomes, you really see who those best players are, and it makes you evaluate how important the quarterback position is and who really is at the top of this hierarchy. I have 11 names, not the 10. I think me and Lewis have the same names but in different orders.
Do you want to start at the bottom and go up?
We'll start at the bottom and go up. I don't know about you two, but around about 11 to 7 is pretty much all NFC for me, and above that is all AFC, basically.
Well, no spoilers.
Anyway,
same.
Well, same. Well, Shabs, I don't know if you've got a number 11, but I've got Mr. Kirk Cousins at 11.
I didn't rank anyone at 11. I thought we were doing top 10, so I've got
no one at 11.
Fail. That's an immediate fail. You didn't put 11.
But if it was anyone, it would be Jared Goff.
Okay. Luke. This is interesting because, all our 11s over this top 10, I think are quite interchangeable because I went Matt Stafford. Ooh. Stafford, Goff and Cousins. Okay. All these fringe guys.
Okay, into the actual list now. Number 10, and it might be recency bias, it might be Cowboys bias. I'm really worried about what I saw from Jalen Hurts. So I've got Jalen Hurts in the top 10, but just at number 10.
That's disrespectful. I've gone for Brock Purdy, number 10.
Okay.
Great game manager.
Ooh, Cam Newton over here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unhinged. That man's social media is unhinged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got
awful hats as well. Have you seen these? Sorry, Travels. I was talking about Cam Newton's hats.
Cam Newton's hat? What?
Do you not see the Superman one that he made that time?
No.
Where he partnered with...
Just go on his social media in a bit and look at what he's wearing on his head.
No.
Anyway. It looks like a big... Not like in a game where you get like a big fake trucker hat.
The thing with Cam Newton is I don't know what's more deranged, what's on his head or what's in his head.
Have you ever seen the movie Agent Cody Banks? He gets that Seattle Seahawks hat with the extremely large brim.
It's that.
Anyway, sorry, Shabs. Who was your number 9? 10.
10, it was Jordan Love.
Jordan Love.
Whoa,
nice.
You're going to be missing some names out of here, chaps, because we had Goff and Luck. Number 9, I had Brock Purdy. Fantastic game manager. I just think Brock Purdy's a really sound
game
player.
manager.
And looking at the names above him, there are some really special players above him, so I'm going to go Purdy 9. Like,
I got Cousins 9.
I was maybe the Cousins super fan.
I had Brock Purdy 9. Great game manager. No, do you know what? I think I don't know why he gets the hate he does. I guess it's because he was Mr. Irrelevant. Like, you can say, oh, anyone who had that offense would be good, but like, Jimmy G didn't do anything in it. Trey Lance, who was like the 5th overall pick, didn't do anything with it. He's got something. I'm not saying he's Tim Brody, but like, he's decent. He's definitely decent.
He is good. Yeah.
No, but I totally agree, because it's like, if he was the number 2 pick of the draft, there wouldn't be this narrative that he's got all these weapons and this and that. Well, yeah. What is Mahomes not throwing to one of the best tight ends ever?
Yeah, I know.
Has Cousins not been throwing to the best receiver in the league? Is Burrow not throwing to some of the best receivers in the league?
Yeah, I know. It's not the it's not good quarterbacks, good wide receivers. They make each other better. It's not one or the other. You know what I mean? Like,
did you see?
Great.
I think it was. I can't remember. I want to say it was Matt Rule. Came out. He's now a head coach of some college team, and he was like, "Yeah, I wanted to draft Purdy, but you know the higher ups." Yeah, I was like, "Oh yeah, of course, you did." Yeah.
Easy peasy.
I saw that clip of Matt Rule. It's like, shut up, mate.
Yeah.
Number 8, I went with Matt Stafford. I think he's probably got one of, if not the best arm in the league, and I don't think that's really kind of like a hot take. Great player, good when he's got the weapons and the team around him.
Great game manager.
Detroit wasted him for a long, long time. I think Stafford's an amazing player. Yeah, Stafford at 8.
I got Jalen Hurts at 8 because Jalen Hurts is a great, really, really good quarterback. Maybe sort of people are thinking he's a bit of like a what's the word? You know, with the tush push and everything like that. You know, he's a bit of a fluky player, I guess. But no, I think Jalen Hurts is a really good quarterback. Just imagine we were making this list last year. You know, like
he'd be up in the top 5.
He'd be up in the top 5. I think a lot of the problems with this team was the coaching staff. I didn't really see much regression from Jalen Hurts himself, so I have no reason to think he's worse than he was last year. Just the other players that in these lists had better seasons and just showed a bit more.
Chaps.
8, I've got CJ Stroud.
Ooh, nice.
Looks really good, but he's a rookie, so can't have him too high.
Yeah.
Number 7 now, I've got Kyler Murray. Spoiler alert, my highest ranked NFC quarterback. I think Kyler Murray's the best quarterback in the NFC. That means there's no Prescott on this list. Yeah, I think Kyler Murray's great. He's going to remind people next year why he's so great, I think, as well. When he gets Marvin Harrison Jr., it's going to be nice. Lou?
I went Strode 7. Really impressed by Strode. Looks like a great player for years to come. Great game manager.
I've got Justin Herbert at 7. Not been the best couple of seasons, I think, fair to say, but the dude's got a cannon. I recently saw a clip of him at his pre-draft workout throwing a ball 63 yards from a stationary, just flat-footed position. He's a freak. I'm hoping that Harbaugh coming in will sort of restart that fire, because I had him in his breakout year and he was great.
Yeah. At 6, I've gone for Chet Johnson.
Nice.
I needed to get it in.
Okay.
First. At 6, I've gone for Herbert for all the reasons that Sharples just said.
At 6, I've gone for Herbert as well for all the reasons Sharples just said.
Very nice.
This is where I slotted in Jalen Hurts. I think you're right, though. I think if we did this last year, he'd probably been up there. I mean, certainly fantasy was always top 3, but I think he'd have been a lot higher. I think it has taken a bit of shine off him this year, but for me, it was the defense that was the main culprit for them crumbling. And I'm not ready to banish him out of the top 10 just yet. So yeah,
and you got to remember that pesky cliff that AJ Brown fell off.
Oh yeah.
What happened to him?
There was that string of 125-yard receiving games and then nothing. 5, and it might be quite high. I've got CJ Stroud. For me, I'm not talking talent. I'm not talking arm strength. I'm not talking flashy players. I'm talking
game management.
I'm talking if we're talking clutch, obviously playoff games, putting the team on his back. I've seen more out of Stroud this year than I've seen out of Justin Herbert in Herbert's first 4 years in the league.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm going Stroud. I think he's an amazing player. And with the caveat that, for me, there's a little gap now between Stroud and the 4 guys that I've got above him.
Well, number 5, I've gone for Kyler Murray. I think Kyler Murray came back this year and sort of reminded us the quarterback that he is. He's a great player. That Arizona team's going to be good. Kyler Murray. He's sort of the dynamic player that you need at quarterback, really.
Sharps.
Well, I can't believe I'm the first person to mention this guy. I think you two might be still hurting a little bit from the playoffs, but I've got Dak Prescott at 5.
Ooh.
Listen.
Maybe we are, yeah.
Maybe he is in my list. He's
okay,
not.
well then,
he's not he's not in mine, I've already said, yeah.
I gotta say, Al's already ruled him out. And if he's much higher on this, then maybe you're a bit too high on him, Lou. But I mean, look at the numbers this year. Terrific. Obviously, bottled it in the playoffs as we knew they would do. But there's something there. We need to see it in big games, but there's something there.
I don't know if the Cowboys have got the 5th best quarterback in the league on the team.
No, Dak Prescott's a really good quarterback. If we were doing 12, which we should have done, he would have probably been number 12 for me.
Whoa,
but it's just, it is the frustrating thing of being a fan and never really. I mean, I don't know if other Cowboys fans can relate to this, but just never really buying into him being that great. It always felt like something had to give. Whenever I'm watching the Cowboys, it never feels like what you're watching Patrick Mahomes or Joe Burrow or something, and it's like they're going to make the pass. You're always clutching the seat, thinking, "Is he going to make this pass? Okay, he's made right next one." It's excruciating to watch.
So just sorry to interrupt. I've just given some of the names we mentioned: a Love, a Purdy, a Hurts. You'd be swapping all those guys for Dak.
I definitely in a heartbeat swapping for Jalen Hurts.
I would swap him. Looking at my list of people who I've just said already, I would swap him. Yes, Kyler Murray over him, Justin Herbert over him, Stroud over him, Hurts over him. Okay, for Cousins, Purdy, Stafford, you got to look at the context.
I just take Stafford over. I mean, and you don't.
I know you made a smug little point there, Sharples.
No, you don't want to understand it.
You don't want to call Purdy a game manager, but Purdy's amazing in that system. It just makes you think how good Prescott would be in that system or something. You know what I mean? Because who can be that good in the Cowboys? I don't know. I just think Sharples is better because his MVP pick last year was Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
No, I'm bitter this year because I had McCaffrey and Lamb on my team and I still didn't win.
Okay, there we go.
I just can't believe you've not got Murray in the top 10.
What's that? Kyler Murray? I think you're right. He did burn me last year when I vouched for him. I need a full season to see it again before I can get him back in there.
Okay. So, did we all do our number 5s then? Yeah, we did. So, I'm assuming we've all got the same 4 guys. So, why don't we, starting with Sharples, then Lou, then I'll go last. Go from 4 to 1 of what order you've got these guys in.
Okay, so...
Hey, watch him go now. So, 4 I've got Tannehill.
Sam Howell. Jake Browning. And Tommy DeVito.
Yeah. At number 4, I have Joe Burrow.
Keep going. 3, 2,
1.
we're
doing them all? Sorry, I thought we were doing alternate. Okay, so
all in one.
At 4, we've got Joe Burrow. At 3, Josh Allen. 2, Lamar Jackson. 1, Patrick Mahomes.
Wowzers. Lou?
4, Joe Burrow. 3, Lamar Jackson. 2, Josh Allen. 1, Patrick Mahomes.
Okay. It kills me, but I've got 4 Lamar Jackson, 3 Joe Burrow, 2 Josh Allen, 1 Mahomes. Mahomes is clearly number 1. You see, I must be a lot higher on Burrow than you two, and maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm way too kind of biased with what I've seen in the playoffs. But for me, it was hard to not put Burrow 2. I think Joe Burrow's an amazing player.
Yeah. Great player.
I mean, those 4 guys are clear of everyone else. Why Sharples, Lamar Jackson at the 2? Is it the season that he's just had, the MVP that he's just won?
Yeah, I think so, and I think that's probably why I had Burrow down. Obviously, he was injured a lot this season. You know, I'd have been ready to put Mahomes a little bit lower down, but then obviously he's come alive in the playoffs. So I think recency bias skews it. But I just think there's not a lot between Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. But if I think who would I rather have on my team for one game, it'd be Lamar, just because there'd be that little bit of magic, that 40-yard touchdown run or something, which... Yeah. Although I think Josh Allen has a much better arm. Something about Lamar.
Yeah. And we'll not explain why Mahomes is number 1 because people are bored of hearing about how amazing Pat Mahomes is, shall we? Lou, you've got a chunk of news there that you want to deliver exactly as you've written it.
Thank you. Sit back. There's going to be a lot of words, a lot of names at you. Coaching hires, so that we'll start with the Falcons. They hired defensive coordinator Raheem Morris from the Rams as their new head coach. He also brought over the Rams quarterback and passing game coach as his OC and the Rams assistant head coach as his DC. So a lot of the Rams in Atlanta now. Let's see. I mean, none of these guys is a sure thing. You never know. The Panthers hired Tampa Bay offensive coordinator Dave Canales as their new head coach. Also promoted a GM as well, and also a new president of football operations. All sorts going on with the Panthers. They've got a new offensive coordinator as well, who was the former Bucs wide receiver coach. Raiders are sticking with Antonio Pierce as their head coach, employed him on a permanent basis. They've also employed former Chargers GM Tom Telesco as their GM. Okay. And former Bears offensive coordinator Luke Getsy as their offensive coordinator. Not to throw any shade on Pierce, the team obviously love him. They are some very uninspiring hires, I will say, in Las Vegas, to be honest with you.
Stinks.
Yeah, and that GM didn't do anything impressive in
He drafted Justin Herbert.
He drafted Justin Herbert, which, well done for drafting one of the highest touted quarterbacks with your high pick. Chargers, everyone's very excited about this one. They've hired Jim Harbaugh. He's back in the NFL. He's the new head coach. They've also brought over the Ravens director of player personnel, Joe Ortiz, as the general manager. And they've got former Ravens offensive coordinator I meant to type Greg Roman, but I typed Grey Roman.
Grey Roman.
Greg Roman, who was very, very run the ball, which was what Jim Harbaugh's very much like as well. Jim Harbaugh's also brought his Michigan defensive coordinator, Jesse Minter, with him as well.
That's mint.
Yeah, that is mint. I tell you what, he's Minter, their defensive coordinator, because that's his last name. Patriots. This was a weird one. It seemed like they had it lined up for a while. Jared Mayonnaise. That's not what we're going to call him. That's not what we're calling him. Mayonnaise as the new head coach. He played for the team for 8 years, and he was the linebackers coach for the last 5 years. They've sort of promoted the defensive line coach as well, DeMarcus Covington, as their defensive coordinator, and hired former Browns offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt as their offensive coordinator. I'm intrigued. I'm really intrigued. Yeah. Obviously, that organisation won so many Super Bowls. You got to have a feeling that they know what they're doing. So, all eyes on the mayonnaise.
You want some mayo with that?
Yes. Seahawks hiring the Ravens defensive coordinator, Mike McDonald. A lot of Mike Mcs in the league. Yeah. Mike McDaniel, Mike McCarthy. Now Mike McDonald.
Is it not Donald? Why are you saying Donald?
We've got another Nepo baby, the son of the McDonald's founder.
Mike McDonald.
It's Mike McDonald, mate.
Mike.
Well, from now on, he's McDonald to us.
I mean, yeah, there's a joke to be made about Jared Mayonnaise and Mike McDonald somewhere.
Yeah. McDaniels. Josh, isn't it?
Josh McDaniels, yeah. Titans hiring former Bengals offensive coordinator Brian Callahan to head coach. That's an interesting one to me. This is sort of him, obviously, interviewing well, and I guess sort of taking a job while so there was a lot. All I'm saying is there's a lot hotter candidates out there.
Yeah.
But if you're offering the guy a job, good on him. They've also brought in a new defensive coordinator, new offensive coordinator. Only one notable one there is the new offensive coordinator was the Jags passing game coordinator. I don't know who looked at the Jaguars passing game and thought, we need that guy.
Yeah.
The Commanders, they've snatched up Dan Quinn from the Cowboys. He's the new head coach. They've also hired 49ers assistant general manager Adam Peters as their GM. That's an impressive organisation to get a bit of that in the building. And former Cardinals head coach Cliff Kingsbury is the offensive coordinator.
No, you see, he was recently like an offensive assistant at USC, so there's that kind of connection with Caleb Williams. But ESPN also announced that Kingsbury had been given the offensive coordinator job at the Raiders. And then, 2 hours later, took it down. And then a few hours after that, released the information that, he was the Cardinals. The reliable source that's our brother Adam said that Kingsbury was about to sign the paper with the Raiders.
I know, yeah, he said the pen was in his hand. Almost had pen to paper, apparently. Dan Quinn is also bringing over the Cowboys secondary coach as well as the defensive coordinator. A few more little notable coaching hires. That's all the head coaches. Eagles have got, both coordinators are fresh this year. They've got Vic Fangio, who was with the Dolphins, parted ways with them. And they've got Kellen Moore, who was with the Cowboys, was with the Chargers last year. These are now their offensive coordinator. They had to do something different, obviously, didn't they? Cowboys have got Mike Zimmer, who used to be the Vikings head coach, as their new defensive coordinator. Not a good noise. That is not a good noise.
I feel like he's worked with the Cowboys before.
Yeah, he has 20 years ago or something. This is amazing. This is actually my favourite piece of news
for Jalen Warren.
The Steelers have hired Arthur Smith as their offensive coordinator. Yeah, amazing stuff. Sure.
Oh my
Fine,
god! I mean,
God.
you talk about looking at the Jags passing tape and thinking, I was like, who's looked at a man who has an offense which includes Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, and Drake London, and been absolutely terrible and gone, yes, let's bring that guy to a team with no offensive superstars.
The frustrating thing is, which is always it's been the case for the past few years for the Steelers, in that they've seemed to have made the wrong move in every aspect. Players, coaches, and Mike Tomlin just drags them over the edge. So as long as Mike Tomlin's there, they're still going to be good.
Obviously, I'm just putting it out there. This might be sort of libel or slander. Has Mike Tomlin been given a cut of FedEx?
It's an important question to ask.
Who plays at FedEx Field?
FedEx Field? No, it's because that used to be Heinz Field,
Right.
didn't it?
Right. Okay.
Before it was something else entirely.
Worth looking into.
FedEx Field is the Commanders, isn't it?
Ooh. Well.
Interesting that he isn't there.
Yeah.
Falling out with your dad?
Speaking of Commanders, no job for Eric Bieniemy as of yet.
Oh, that's interesting. He's going to go back to the Chiefs. I thought this was a notable one. The Packers hired Boston College head coach Jeff Hafley as their new defensive coordinator. Just interesting when guys come over from college, really, who sort of,
Oh, yeah, the balance has been shifted in college recently with like the NIL and players being paid and this idea that some colleges just can't keep up. Coaches kind of want to come to the NFL.
Yeah. So just so we all know as well, there's new offensive coordinators for the Bills, the Bears, the Bengals, the Browns, and the Saints.
Oh, yes, who've the Browns got?
The Browns, if talk about failing upwards or failing sideways at least.
Ken Dorsey.
Who just lost the Bills job. And then new defensive coordinators for the Ravens, the Bills, the Bears, the Jags, the Rams, the Dolphins, the Giants. TBC, but there will be new coordinators, both offensive and defensive, in Seattle as well. Just look out for that. So hell of a lot of coaching changes. The coaching carousel this year was, wow, there's a lot. Mm-hmm.
I think for me, though, the most notable were the two guys who didn't get a job. Obviously, mainly Belichick.
And
also Mike Vrabel.
you?
To me, I don't know about you, Sue. It screams Cowboys do another 12-5 out in the first round, and Bill Belichick comes in for like 2 years.
Nobody wants Bill Belichick though. Nobody wants
to hire him this year though.
I know, nobody. I don't know. He just mustn't. He's
comes with too much.
It sounds insane to say, but the way he coaches. Everybody for years wanted the Belichick way. People don't want that anymore. No. It doesn't really feel like people want that anymore. I don't know whether, dare I say, about potentially the greatest coach of all time, he's outdated. Really.
I think as like all-seeing, powerful, like you have him as a coach and a GM, but I think if you put him at the helm just as a head coach, I think tactically he's still probably the best. If you combine him with a GM who can supply him with talent, because obviously he's shown that's not his strength. Defensively, he's an absolute encyclopedia. I'm amazed he hasn't gotten a job. I'll be perfect. Especially when some of the teams that have been languishing in the NFL for 20, 30 years, like an Atlanta Falcons, I was amazed they didn't just pull the trigger on it and say 2-3 years. You're not going anywhere. Why not give him a go?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Anyway, quick mention of some free agents. I'm going to say a lot of names, lads. I want you to pick one and give me an ideal destination for fantasy football.
Woo!
Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield. Well, free agents and guys that are probably going to be available. Yeah. Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield, Gardner Minshew, Joe Flacco, Ryan Tannehill, who's heading to the booth, of course. Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard, Saquon Barkley, Austin Eckler, DeAndre Swift, Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, Devin Singletary, Zach Moss, Mike Evans, T. Higgins, Michael Pittman, Odell Beckham, Tyler Boyd, Hollywood, Calvin Ridley, Cheeky Gabe, Dalton Schultz, Hunter Henry, Noah Fant. As an example, I would like to see Mike Evans at the Buffalo Bills for fantasy football. I think that would be just amazing.
Yeah.
To see Mike. And I know it's probably mostly on Kadarius Toney, but I've gone off this idea of just saying just an unbelievable receiver and then the Chiefs. Like, obviously, Hollywood Brown and the Chiefs, Mike Evans and the Chiefs, T. Higgins and the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs have shown that they're going to work with whoever's there. I don't think they want a Tyreek Hill anymore. So I'm going to say Evans to the Bills. I think would be great for fantasy. Lou?
This is a tough one. I'm going to say... Kirk Cousins. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say Saquon Barkley to the Cowboys.
Were you going to say Kirk Cousins to the Vikings for Justin Jefferson?
Kirk Cousins stay. Kirk Cousins to the Vikings would be the most ideal out of all of them. But Saquon Barkley to the Cowboys would be cool. I think he's better than Tony Pollard. Proved that this past year. He's proved that his whole career. He's still got a lot of juice in him. I think that would be interesting.
Okay. Sharples.
And all of the wide receivers to Kansas City.
Yeah.
Proper random, I don't know why he was the name I picked out of all those names, but I want to see Zach Moss go to the Minnesota Vikings to take on the Alexander Mattison role that I promised everyone at the start of the show. He was really good. Like, it was unfortunate that Taylor came back, but like before Taylor was back, Zach Moss was something like the RB4. He was around that. Yeah. He was really good. Like, if you put him in a team like the Vikings, who've shown that they'll give a running back 20 plus carries every week, I think he'd be really good for them. So, random one, but yeah, Moss to the Vikings.
Yeah.
Nice.
Now, kind of, before we do our Super Bowl pick, a couple of things to round off the fantasy season. I'm going to say the first position drafted in fantasy next year will be, and then we'll all say a name. So, for example, the first quarterback drafted in fantasy next season will be Josh Allen. Sharples.
Josh Allen.
The first running back drafted in fantasy next year will be Christian McCaffrey. The first wide receiver drafted in fantasy next year will be Justin Jefferson.
Chet Johnson.
Hey.
Will be Justin Jefferson.
Don't do the chase.
Justin Jefferson.
Fine.
Tyreek Hill.
Oh, the first tight end drafted in fantasy next year will be Sam Laporta.
It will be killer Travis Kelce.
Oh, okay.
But in the third round instead of the first.
Yeah, okay. And the 2023 fantasy season told me. What did it tell you this season, lads?
That you were bad at fantasy
football, that I don't like losing in the championship games. What's the one thing that you learned this year, lads? Now, the fantasy season that's just gone told me that for the second year in a row, I should say, that getting a good group of wide receivers can carry you through the fantasy playoffs. Now, for the second year in a row, I've had about 3 or 4 wide receivers that have been in the top 24 come the end of the year, and they absolutely carried me to the championship game. Now, I know everyone's going to tell you that running backs are super valuable. Maybe it's because we play in a league with 2 flex positions, but those wide receivers can really, really carry it, whether it's trade value, but just playing them in your flex. Yeah, I think, again, next year I'm going to kind of try and stock up on some amazing wide receivers, because I think that position is the one, for me, since I've been playing fantasy, that I've seen kind of the the biggest kind of correlation between having really good wide receivers and getting far in the playoffs. You know, I've done the running back thing, I've done the tight end early thing, wide receivers early. For me, Lou?
The 2023 fantasy season showed me that maybe tight end isn't as useless as we think it is. This season, for the first time since 2014, 10 tight ends who played 15 or more games averaged 10 or more fantasy points. There was a lot to go round this year. 10 usable players like that. That's in some leagues that's one per team. You're not sort of having to scrounge around for the bits anymore. And those 10 players that didn't include guys like Dalton Kincaid, who are probably going to kick on, Mark Andrews because he was injured, Isaiah Likely, who was really good, the Dallas Goedert, who had a bit of a down year. I feel like there's going to be a wealth of tight ends in the new year. Maybe we should start looking at it a little bit differently.
Sharps.
For me, I realised that I was neglecting the fantasy gods. I haven't sacrificed anywhere near enough chickens this year because my team was great and I still lost. And it just goes to show you can have a great team and still lose.
That's the optimism that we want to spread on this podcast.
It doesn't matter how good your team looks. You're going to lose.
I had to have one last whinge about it before I shut up and move on to next year. But no, I think what it cemented home for me was I'm happy to go late on a quarterback. I think 2 seasons ago when Mahomes, Allen, Hurts, and I think Burrow at that point all smashed it. I think it made people this year go really hard on quarterbacks, and I think the likes of Dak, Purdy was in the top 10. I think Tua just about was. Jordan Love obviously coming in quarterback 5. Obviously it's easy to say in hindsight, but for me, I want to be scooping up top tier running back and wide receivers in those first 6 rounds. I don't want to have to worry about a quarterback. And I don't think you need to. If you pick the right one, you can pick a quarterback in round 10 and still be supremely happy with that. So, probably a good year to mention it, and obviously Mahomes could make me look silly again next year, but I don't think you need to do it. I don't think you need to take any quarterback in rounds 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah. I would also say, just briefly, if you're in a league that only has one flex position, if it's like a standard kind of 1 quarterback, 2 running back, 2 receiver, 1 tight end, 1 flex, the importance of getting those ones in early, I think in a few of my leagues with that format, with that kind of number of players in the starting lineup, I've been a bit too smart. I've been thinking, just fill up on the best players when you should really be getting your ones early, your wide receiver 1, your running back 1, your tight end 1. But yeah. Anyway, it's time. Super Bowl picks. I'm finding this really hard to project, really hard to choose. And we probably say that every year, but I mean, you kind of want one thing to happen, but your head says another thing is going to happen. I'm really, really excited for the game. And I am going to go with the San Francisco 49ers.
Okay.
I can't think of a good reason why, but I'm just going to go with it. I think, and again, it sounds stupid to say this, but I think they have to overmatch the Chiefs. I know the Ravens overmatch the Chiefs. I know the Bills. No, not the Bills. The Ravens overmatch the Chiefs. We'll go with. They've got to. The squad's better as a unit. They've looked better throughout the season. I'm going San Francisco. Lou.
Yeah, I'm just going to revert back to my pre-2023 season mindset and say that the Chiefs are going to beat the 49ers in the Super Bowl. I'm not going to bet against the Chiefs.
Sharps.
Yeah, well, obviously there's a massive conspiracy going on. The 49ers practice pitch is too soft. They're practicing on the college team's pitch, whereas the Chiefs get to practice at the Raiders facility. The fire alarm went off in the hotel at 5 a.m. of the Niners. And obviously the league, not that they want you to know about it, but they've actually signed a 10-year deal with Taylor Swift to do Super Bowl halftime shows, obviously contingent on the fact that Travis Kelce wins. So, yeah, it's going to be the Chiefs.
Nice. There we go. Chiefs 49ers. Well, it's going to be a great game. Thank you very much for listening this year.
Thank you very
really
much.
Appreciate it. I don't know about you two, but I mean, with the NFL season coming to a close, I'm so excited for the Super Bowl and I'm so gutted that it's ending. I know that this is my favourite sport. It takes over my life, our lives, fantasy football, watching it when it's on. it's just great. If you're watching the Super Bowl with mates at the weekend, with family, if you're going out watching it, please do enjoy it. Hope you're not too tired the next morning. And yeah, we'll be back in draft season, in that kind of combine season, with some kind of some news on rookies, a bit of insight on players that you might not have heard of, and just kind of giving you an idea of who to look out for in the combine and in the draft. But until then, again, we really appreciate listeners. We're going to push it even more next year than we have done this year. And yes, have a good off season. Hopefully it's not too long.
I think it might be about the same as last time. But,
Damn.
Oh, maybe not.
I was banking on it being a bit shorter. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, thank you very much.
Cheers,
and,
thanks very much.
Have a good one. Enjoy the Super Bowl.
See you.
See ya.
Bye-bye.